Alright, June 2023, Paper 3, GCSE Maths. Let's get going. Simplify this. Well, this is outside the bracket, which means we times them together, so we get m to the 6. This is just a simple multiplication, so we add powers to get x to the 13. That would be 4p cubed plus 12p squared. How much coffee? Everyone drinks coffee. 68% people will drink coffee. So coffee drinkers will go one at a time, okay? One step at a time. So the coffee drinkers is 800 times 0.68, which will equal 544 people. And each person drinks 2 cups of coffee, apparently. And you need 10.6 per cup of coffee. So how much coffee does Johnny need? Times 2 times 10.6. That would give me 11532.8 grams. They want it to the nearest gram, so that's 11533 grams. More people drink coffee than we thought we did, need more coffee. Right, because this number's bigger. So, yeah. He's going to run out of coffee. You know what to write. You don't need to see me write. Show ACD is isosceles. Okay. What's the easiest way to do that? Okay, well, this is 125. This is co-interior, which means, so we have co-interior. And then angles opposite. And then triangles add to 180. And then equal angles means isosceles. So that's the rules we're using here. So hopefully you can see where we're going with this. So this must be 55. Just make this co-interior angle add up to 180. So this is also 55. This is 110, so this is 70. So then we take 180 minus 55 minus 70 to get 55. So yeah, they've both got the same angles, so these two sides are equal. Yeah, happy days really. Moving on. It takes 14 hours for 15 pumps to fill a water tank. Okay, so basically you remember this as you times them together when you get stuff like this. Because if you increase this one, you'll have to decrease that. If you increase that, that will decrease. So take it as the multiplication is constant. So how many hours would it take 4 pumps? So then we have 14 times 5 equals 4x, where x is hours. So then we get 14 times 5 over 4, which equals, what would that equal? 70 over 4? Time to get my calculator, really. No point not using that. Which equals 17.5 hours. Moving on. Here are some numbers. Find the highest common factor. Okay, well, basically, we're looking for what these two both have in common. Easiest way to do that, and the way the examiner likes to see you do it, is with a Venn diagram. Here's A and B. A has 2 squared, B doesn't have any of that. A and B both have a 3 squared, so we'll put a 3 squared in. They both have a 7. A on top of that has another 3 squared, and B on top of that has another 7. So what they have in common, just a highest common factor, will be this 3 squared times 7 equals 9 times 7 equals 63. Lowest common multiple. Okay, well that's what we need that we could make both of these numbers out if we wanted. So that's 2 squared times 3 to the 4 times 7 squared. Which will be, I'm just going to type that into my calculator. 4 times 3 to the 4 times 49 equals 15,876. Not very low. Okay. So here's the total thing over that. If you look at the units, if you divide this by this, it's a good way to check your answers really looking at the units. That's just equal to seconds. So if I divide this, I don't want to read that number out, sorry, over 11.9, we get time in seconds, which we then need to convert into days, okay? So let's type it in. Make sure you type it in carefully, as it's a really easy way to lose those marks. 67205, 600 over 11.9, which gives us 5647529, whatever. We divide by 60 to get it in mins. Divide it by 60 again to get it in hours. And then we divide it by 24 to get days. Which gives me 65, nearest day is just 65 because it's 65.3. Okay. Here's a graph. Write down the turning points. Well, we can see it. It's here. So that's 1 minus 3. Estimate a route. Well, where does it look to be crossing? 2.2, 2.4, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8. What, 2.75? That's all you got to do, really. It just said one of the routes, didn't it? Yeah. So just read it off, really. You draw your line here. Where roughly do you think that is? Or that is. I've picked that one, obviously. Now, moving on. Solid cuboid is made of metal. Has this, has this. Okay, well, that's just easy, okay? 9 times 72 equals 648. We just times these together, okay? Because density equals mass over volume. So dense times mass equals volume. Okay, moving on. So 80% of that number, so we take 0.7 times 0.8 equals 0.56, 56%. Moving on. ABD is a triangle, C is a point on BD. Work out the length of DC, okay. So if I work out this length, I know this angle, because it will be, 35? Because angles add up to 180. I can then use the sine rule, okay? So how do I work out this? Well, SOHCAHTOA, we're using sine here, so sine of 41 is opposite over things, so we have AC over 6.8. So 6.8 sine of 41. Once again, make sure your calculator hasn't slipped into a bad mode. It should have a D at the top. If it doesn't, make sure it does, which gives me AC equals 4.46. We then have sine 55, using the sine rule, sine 55 over AC equals sine 35 over DC. Okay, so now we'll type that in. What do we get? DC equals sine 35 over sine 55 AC. So we'll type that in. Sine 55. And we get DC equals 3.1 to 1 decimal place. Here's a group of heights. Draw a box plot for this information. Least height is 169. Quite tall. So we'll draw this line at 169. Greatest height was 186. The median was 177. The lower quartile was 174. I've drawn this wrong, sorry. Each one of these is worth 2. I wasn't paying attention to the units on the axis. You should, really. You really should. So here's 169. The median is 177, which is actually here. The lower quartile is 174, which is here. Once again, you should use a ruler, but I don't want to, so that would probably explain why I'm not. However, the examiner won't take that excuse for you, so don't do that. And then 186 will be here, and we go, hooray. Compare the distribution of heights of adults to teenagers. That means you want to talk about the range. So IQR is the same. And the full range is 5, 1, 1, 1. And then that is 1, 1, 1. Range is slightly bigger in the teenagers. Whenever they say distribution, you want to talk about the ranges. They want 2 marks, so again, say 2 things. Show that x minus 1, x plus 5. Okay, so we're just expanding triple brackets. How boring, but we can do it. So that's x squared plus 3x minus 3. I'm going to combine that down again. X squared plus 2x minus 3. X minus 5. To get x cubed minus 5x squared plus 2x squared minus 10x minus 3x plus 15, which gives me x cubed minus 3x squared minus 13x plus 15. Moving on. An expression for nth term of the sequence of triangular numbers is this. Prove the sum of any 2 consecutive triangle numbers is a square number. Okay, so the first one is then n plus 1. And then the next number would therefore be n plus 1, n plus 2 over 2. Which, so I get n plus 1 over 2 over n plus 2, isn't it? n plus 2 equals n plus 1 lots of 2n plus 2 over 2 equals n plus 1 squared. Therefore, always square. You always want to put your sentence at the end just to really hammer in your point to make sure you get the marks. Maybe make it a bit more legible than my writing. Okay, calculate the area of OB to C. Okay, easy. So we need to get the radius, and then we just take a proportion of the full circle. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so many ways to do it. Many tempting ways to do it. Yes, we're going to have to use the cosine rule to find out the radius. That's the main thing we're doing here, so it's probably worth, nice 4 marker. For a 4 marker, this isn't too bad, so we get BO squared, which is what we're looking for, equals A squared 9 plus C squared minus 2BC, which is 296 cos of 35. Get your calculator up, find out what BO is by square rooting this term, which will give me 9 squared plus 6 squared minus 2BC, which is cos 35, which gives me BO is 5.34 whatever. And then area OBC is pi r squared times 8 over 36 through the angle they've given us. R is just this 5.34, so square it times by pi times 8 over 36. I've just whacked off zeros here. There should be zeros here, but I didn't want to, so that's why, which gives me an area of 19.91. They wanted it to 3SF, which is 19.9 when we round it. Moving on. Well, this is difference of 2 squares. Hopefully you see that. A plus B, A minus B. Really common, learn it. Show that 2 to the 40 is 2 consecutive odd numbers. Okay, well, Sometimes, how are we going to do this? When you remember this part A, part B, maybe we can use this. So this would be 2 to the 20 squared minus 1 squared. So it's 2 to the 20, written that badly. So that gives us 2 to the 20 plus 1, 2 to the 20 minus 1. And if we just let this be a number, that's just n plus 1, n minus 1, 2 consecutive numbers. Again, the sentence at the end for stuff like that just helps prove to them you haven't just made it up, you have shown it. Enlarge triangle T by scale factor -2, but scale of enlargement here, -2, -2. Okay. So we get our lines up. I actually do need a ruler to do this. Do I? No. So we get to the point and then we... What do we do? Yeah, we go this way. So you can get your ruler up and go along like that, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to do it a bit more awkwardly, but a way I think is better. So we go 4, and then we have to go 2 more in the other direction. So 4, 4. That puts us to here. And then here we go 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, gave up on me. That's not helpful. Let's try again. 3, 3, because the point's here. 3, 3, 3, 3. Point is here. And then we go 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3 to get this here. And we get this lovely triangle here. And then, yeah, that's all you have to do. You can also just follow your construction lines along, so you get like that. I've just never been a big fan of that, so I'd rather count along. But it's whatever you'd rather. Okay. Find an estimate of the gradient of the graph at 2.5 seconds. That means we need to draw a tangent, so we really need a ruler for this one. So try and draw your tangent at like 2.5. iPads really aren't good rulers for this, but we will try nonetheless. You can really kind of see what you're supposed to do though quite clearly from this though, because you want just the bit of 2.5 peeking out. If you can't do that, you're a little bit under. So I'm currently a little bit under. Unfortunately, my iPad won't really let me do any better, and that'll be good enough for the marks probably. So this goes from 1.2 to 4.5, and it goes up to a height of 55 from 0. So that gives me 55 over 44.5 minus 1.2, which we type into our calculator. You want to keep this line on there and maybe draw a triangle just to make it really obvious to the examiner. They might be in a horrible mood after marking your paper or before marking your paper, so you don't want to give them any excuses to dock your marks. Equals 16.7. Okay? What does the gradient represent? Well, hopefully you know this. Distance time, the gradient is speed. Or velocity. I probably would be more careful and say velocity. And then the gradient of a velocity time graph gives you your acceleration, okay? Here's a frustum. Calculate the total surface area of the frustum. Okay. So how we're going to do this is we'll calculate total cone minus small cone plus new circle base, so this bit here. So total cone, pi RL, will give me 3 pi L is 10, so that's 30 pi. Small cone is 6 pi L, 6 pi R, minus 6 pi R. We do need to work out this R, but we're about to do that. Plus new circle, which is just pi of this R squared, and this R. Well, let's think about it. It's all going down in the same ratio. They're similar cones, okay? So 10 has gone down from 10 to 6, so basically we are going to times everything by 6 over 10. Times that by 3, we get R is therefore 1.8. So now just type that in, and what do we get then? 30 pi minus 6 pi lots of 1.8 plus pi lots of 1.8 squared. And that will give us 70.5 to 3SF. Except, will it? No, it won't, because we have also forgotten about the bigger bit at the bottom, which is still there. So we then need to add on our pi r squared from the bottom, which they say is 3 centimetres. So that's plus 9 pi, essentially, because of pi r squared. So add on a 9 pi. And that gives us 98.77, which is about 98.8 to 3 significant figures. Here's a graph. Draw the graph on the grid. What's one thing she's done wrong? I shouldn't go through the origin. Write in better sentences, okay? Because 3 to the 0. So it should go through the point 0, 1. Prove you can write it as this. Well, there are 2 repeating digits, so I'm going to make this equal to 100x. So if x equals this, 100x equals 12.323. So again, I'm going to minus this off to get 99x equals 12.2. So x equals 12.2 over 99. If I type that into my calculator, hopefully it will show us that's actually 61 over, which is 61 over 495. Essentially, we've just times both sides by 5. Nice, moving on. Solve this. Okay, so we're going to have to times everything up by these denominators to get it into a nicer form. So that's 2 minus 2x plus 3 lots of x plus 4 equals x plus 4, 2 minus 2x, which gives us 2 minus 2x plus 3x plus 12, which is what, x plus 14, equals 2x minus 2x squared plus 8 minus 8x. So bring it all over to one side. 0 equals minus 2x squared. We'd have minus 6x over here. We bring over another x, so minus 7x. Minus 14 of this is minus 6. And then, yeah, let's solve. So x equals, we're going to use our quadratic formula here, minus b, so that's 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared. 7 squared minus 4ac. All over 2a, which is minus 4. Which will then give us, unless I've made a mistake, which these numbers don't feel nice, so potentially, 7 plus the square root of 49 minus, 48. That is actually very nice. So I probably haven't made a mistake. How lovely. So that gives us minus 2, and that gives us minus 3 over 2, which is our solutions. Moving on. Okay, so some of these has to be parallel to this. Okay, so we need, I'm just going to make these equal, and that's good enough. So we need 2a plus 8b equals 13, and we need 6a plus 2b equals 6. If I times this one by 3, I get minus 3 actually. I get minus 6a minus 24b equals minus 39. We add these together, and we get 0a, which is useful, minus 22b equals, what, minus 33? So that would give me b equals 3 over 2. And if b equals 3 over 2, what does that make a? Does that make a half? Essentially. Does that check out? Yeah, it does. which then, well, how many A's are B if A is this? Because remember, this could be 3 times longer, it could be the same length. I've pretended they're the same length, which is why I've got this out, but really it could be any amounts of these, yes, but we don't really need the lambdas, okay? So that would give me A equals 3B. Sorry, no. 3A equals B, sorry. Here's a circle. There's a point on the circle. Here's the tangent to the circle. Is he correct? Almost certainly not, but we'll see. So if we always draw our circle, it's just like a radius of 5 really. So it's -3, 4, so it's over here. So this is 3, 4, 5, okay? Which means if we have a look at this, the gradient of our radius line is going to be -y over x, so that's -4 over 3, which means gradient tangent equals 3 over 4. So we'd have y equals 3 over 4 x plus c, and then we have that when y is 4, x is -3, plus c, which gives us c equals 25 over 4, yes? Certainly think so. Yeah, so then the tangent to the circle crosses the x-axis at this point, does it? Well, then we set y to 0. What do we get for x? So then we'd get -3 over 4, x has to equal 25 over 4, cancel those out. X would therefore cross at -25 over 3, which is an 8, so he's wrong. Okay, moving on. Final question. Okay, very exciting stuff. There's y counters in a box, x are pink, and there's 5 blue. The rest are green. X to y is 1 to 3. Okay, so that means x is in... Okay, well actually, this is actually nicer than it looks because there's also an x term in this, which means for the total 1 and 3 are... Well, no, sorry, so y over 3 equals x. This is an important thing, so we're going to box it off so we remember it. So we have x are pink, 5 are blue, and 2x minus 5 are green. Is it green? Yeah. Because that adds up to 3x, which is what we're after. Find a probability in terms of x, the probability that they're all of the same colour. She takes 2 at random. Okay. So, as I've said, we've got 3x in total in the box. So, what would that be? So, 2 pink, p of pink, plus p of blue, plus p of 2 green. Okay? Because you can't have 2 of these occur at once, which means we can just add these probabilities together. So the p of pink is x over 3x times x minus 1 over 3x minus 1. The p of blue would be 5 over 3x, and then 4 over 3x minus 1, plus p of green, which is 2x minus 5, 2x minus 6, over 3x, 3x minus 1. Now combine these, what do we get on the bottom? Denominator is probably easiest to deal with. That would give us 9x squared minus 3x. Did they want it in that form, or did they want us to... No, they didn't, so that form is more than fine. So then this will give me x squared minus x plus 20 plus whatever this double bracket comes out to, plus 4x squared minus 12x minus 10x plus 30, and then we simplify that to collect our like terms. 5x squared plus minus x, that's a lot of minuses, minus 23x plus 50 over 9x squared minus 3x, and we're done. Once again, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, it really does help out. Let me know if there's anything I haven't explained clearly. Always happy to try and explain it better, or release another video, or just fix my video if I've made a mistake. Best of luck with your exams.